Good evening, ladies, Jennifers, and my lovely NBs. We are here live at Las Vegas for the FBA Draft for round number 2. My name is Marcus Baylor, and to my right is Ryan Eastman. How are you doing, dude?
I'm doing excellent. I've recovered from shenanigans night one. I'm ready for a little bit faster. Even though last night was definitely a sprint, I think we have an absolute race we can get done today with only 24 more picks to go to wrap up the draft.
Yeah, it was pretty much a whole roller coaster, especially in the early goings of round 1 with a various of trades, surprise picks. You can list them all of how insane it was for last night.
That I can, and I mean, I'm sure everyone is ready and excited to get started. And I think I see the commissioner coming down to the stage. Let's jump down and listen to what he has to say.
Before we get started tonight, we do have two trades to announce. Firstly, the Pittsburgh Keystones have sent Henry Martin and Timothy Svengard to Hawaii in return for Nuruwata and Hawaii's 29th pick tonight. In addition, the Dakota Bikers have sent $1.5 million in cap space for this year to the Santa Ana Spectrums in return for their 30th pick. I'll be back soon with the Winnipeg Voyagers' first selection of the night.
Okay, I take it back. Shenanigans are not done yet, and the second overall pick getting
Um,
traded to Hawaii.
That's wow. I okay. So I guess a lot of conversations have happened between last night and the 24 hours when we started this draft here. So a lot of questions coming into why they decided to go ahead and send off Nura. It looks like they're trying to go for some big splashes in free agency.
Yeah, I mean, I can see from the Pittsburgh side, they are probably looking for someone who's more established now than going with a rookie that is a bit of an unknown.
Yeah.
I can understand that. Trying to, I'm going to call it, capitalize on what they currently have. Obviously, Margot Warrior, Garland, Desdemona,
Yeah.
they have a pretty solid lineup, and maybe that what they're looking for is someone established, and they needed to use this second pick to get that by getting a veteran. But Hawaii is going young. They had the early retirement of their number one pick last year, and now they're replacing them with the number two pick this year in Martin. So I hope the Rabbit enjoys moving back to an island, but the sun might be a little bit brighter there. Hopefully
Yeah,
he's prepared.
it's gonna be a lot brighter comparatively, but I guess as we're trying to simmer down from these crazy shenanigans going on, I guess we can go ahead and start talking about the current pick right now, which is Winnipeg. We know that from the first round, they traded down to number 4 to pick up Carly Diggs. What do you think they're going to be doing here?
Honestly, I think they're going to go for someone. We talked about them picking up a center last night, but they
Yes.
didn't. um, they did the shenanigans with the trade. I have a feeling they are going to pick up a center here. There's a couple still on the board, and
Yep.
even if it's just looking for someone to develop behind the scenes, it's worth getting.
Yeah, I could definitely agree to that sentiment because it really depends on whether or not they want to bring in a veteran center to come in for the Voyagers because they don't have a lot of cap space at this moment. But just being able to have some sort of insurance would be good. And there are still a plethora of bigs that are available that could do just that, especially when it comes to looking at more athleticism. Like Sandhurst could be a really good pickup or even possibly Weatherby too.
Well, and speaking of, the pick is in. Let's jump on down to the stage.
For the 25th pick of the 2024 FBA draft and the first pick of the second round, the Winnipeg Voyagers have selected Jesse Weatherby, a Kaiwa Kia center from Ruby Valley College. Pittsburgh Keystones, you are now on the clock.
Okay, no shock there. Going with the center.
Yep, and I called the specific one.
There were 5 of them. You had a 25% chance.
Okay, all right.
But again, a
But
good selection here. I like it. Looking for someone to learn and grow and possibly become a starter. Maybe a day one starter, even, honestly, considering we don't know how strong their free agency pickups are. And we'll be talking about some free agency pickups as the night goes on. Any
yes.
final thoughts about Winnipeg before we dive into Pitt, who's going to have 2 picks relatively close?
Well, I think that the big thing is just being able to try and get over the hump. They are losing a couple of major players heading into this upcoming year, and it's just going to be interesting how they're going to fill out those holes, especially now that their draft is officially done. They can now focus on what they can do to kind of bolster up their roster now.
Yeah, and I think looking at them, they're going to want those top 24s that are still, on the board are easy targets, I think, in my mind, to go after here with these 2 high picks they're going to have. I wouldn't put it past them to grab one of them just because, hey, if you're going for rebuilding, go for the talent that's available. Don't necessarily, unless
Yeah.
there's a gem that you found in your scouting, you don't have to do crazy reaches necessarily.
Yeah, 100%. Well, going on into Pittsburgh now with them picking Henry Martin to be that partner
Well, they
for.
traded.
Well, yeah, they traded. I forgot about that. Oh my
They
god,
literally
geez.
just did the trade, Marcus. I
They did.
know all your
Look,
notes are
okay.
thrown out.
Yes, I get it. I'm just trying to read as we go, but yes, they made the major trade. They bring in Nerd to be the partner for Ulysses instead of getting a young player and, like as you said, an unknown. And with them making that move, what do you think they're going to do here now? Because it seems like they really want to go ahead and kind of push in a must-win type of scenario compared to just trying to develop and see if they can blossom for the next few years to come.
Well, as I was saying, I think they're going to pick up some of the top 24s that have slipped to him possibly here. But I think the pick is in. This round is going to go fast and rapid. Let's see what the deputy commissioner has to say.
For the 26th pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Pittsburgh Keystones have selected Sekani Sandhurst, a striped hyena big fur from the Adelaide Aces in the FBL. Williamsburg Minutemen, you are now on the clock.
Okay, we're having a bit of a center run already here as the top
Mhm.
24s that weren't picked are still sitting there.
Yep, and it seems like that a lot of people are trying to bolster up their big furs for the most part, and since they do have made a couple of pretty big decisions um, within the guards, they just want to go ahead and try and get a little bit of a safety net with the bigs as well because they don't really have a lot of bigs in their roster at this moment.
No, they don't. But again, we'll be hearing from Pitt in a little bit again. Let's dive on into Williamsburg real quick. Obviously, some team that has a lot of veteran presence already and maybe just missing some of that younger talent. I think this is another team that you could definitely see grabbing some of those top 24s that have slipped into the second round here. Any of them stand out to you as possible candidates to come off the board right now?
I mean, they could possibly go ahead and continue to bolster up their um since it is more so forward focused, I think what they might be targeting for, and maybe even try to be a little bit flexible as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just say, you know what, bump it, go best available, go for Page Russell, and just kill two birds with one stone.
I mean, I could definitely see going for that here, getting a bit of a swing for to kind of help cover and learn behind Michaela and also being a backup for Linwood. Their
Mhm.
roster is definitely going to get filled out more as we go. They know, Vieira's talked about probably coming back to the team, so they probably have their starting point guard still locked up. And if not, there are definitely quite a few furs on their team. Marcella Oliveira is locked in for 3 more
Yeah.
seasons, so wouldn't put it past them to possibly see how the butterfly does as a starter as well, should things fall that way.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of one of the big things that's interesting about Williamsburg is that I feel like that they're kind of one of those teams that have a very tough time of letting go. I know we've had that history as well. Way back in the day when the whips were a thing, they used to be a thing, and
Yeah.
they kind of like to hoard a little bit of the older guys when you went a little bit longer than when they need to. So if they do see Vera come back, do you feel like that they come back as a starting role, or do you feel like that they'll probably come in with a little bit more limited minutes as what we saw from last year?
I think if she shows up in training camps and is as baller as she's been her whole career, she'll still continue to be a starter. I think some of the younger players are eyeing that starting role though, and
Hmm.
I wouldn't say it's a given. It's not going to be just given to Vera. I think she still has to earn it, and she's a player that can do just that. But again, Father Time catches up to all of us, and the pick is in as the sand runs out of the hourglass. Let's go down to the stage.
For the 27th pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Williamsburg Minutemen have selected Paige Russell, an opossum swing from the Lockcoston Lancers in the FBL. Queen's Pride, you are now on the clock.
Okay, Marcus, you were correct. It was Paige Russell, but again, not a difficult prediction, I think, considering she was the best available on the board.
Yeah, I don't imagine. I can't imagine any of the top 24 players to really get picked up after pick number 30. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. But it makes a lot of sense here to go ahead and go for that for one of the top 24 best available, and really try to shore up that bench.
And joining us once again after night one, Wendy O'Neill. Welcome back.
Hello, hello. Y'all can hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you great. How has the news been around the league as this draft has started? Any insights you've been given while we've been up in the booth?
I think that there's definitely a few players that I will agree are a bit of a surprise that they haven't been picked up yet. Um, I know that the Little twins are definitely two prospects that were a little bit of surprising that they didn't really have a team that could probably want them or felt like they can fit their roster. But the second round is all about just filling up and making sure your roster has depth. So this could be like where they um, come in. It is an interesting night indeed, but I do definitely want to talk about the Queen's Pride, who I feel like can go many different ways of how they want to build up their bench.
Yeah, it. Any thoughts, I guess, on what Queens might be looking for here? Obviously, they have a contract, I believe, out for um, their rookie Alan Clemens heading in the free agency. That I haven't heard too much buzz about that. Any kind of competition.
That is true. Looking at this team, looking at what they already have on their roster, and also just judging it by who they're going over free agency, this might be the time to pick up someone who could play the forward, but also switch to a guard if needed. This might be where Forrest Little goes in, but also they might go to the cusp and they might go for True.
Very true. I would not put it past them. I mean, Queens has surprised us a little bit already. You know, how they've acquired that first overall pick. Marcus,
That
any
was indeed
thoughts?
a surprise.
Well, I think like for the Queens, like there's still a lot of holes that need to be filled in general. Like, if they go for best available, I wouldn't be too surprised. But even if they do bring Allen back, I think it would be pretty wise to go ahead and just try and continue to shore up their big first situation as much as they can. Because I mean, yeah, they do have Timothy Spingard. Well, not my bad. I'm looking at the wrong freaking sheet. um, but yeah, like looking over into the Queens, they like with Alan Clemens with the rumors of him being getting an offer as well. There isn't really any other significant bigs that you can say that you can feel confident that can really help out Allen right now that is currently on the roster. I mean, sure, they could bring Tucker back, but even then, I think we've seen enough of what he could do in order for him to try and elevate to know that he may not be able to elevate the Queens as they would like to. So I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to go big here.
Well, speaking of, the pick is in. Let's cut down to the field.
For the 28th pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Queen's Pride have selected Rodley Folger, a giraffe center. Pittsburgh Keystones, you are now once again on the clock.
Well. Going with the center that was kind of a surprise, not having attended college, the scouts had some questions about how he would perform at the FBA level, but uh, Queen's taking a bit of a long shot here on the draft.
Honestly, hey, I think that that's not a too. It is going to be a very risky, especially going as high as they did for this player because I know that he kind of came up on the radar a little bit last minute, but um, they probably liked a lot of what they saw in this player, so it's going to be interesting how Rodley develops.
Yeah, I definitely feel like this brings up this strengthens their bench a lot more. Definitely just bringing in another center. I don't know if this really shows that they're going to give them a lot of playing time, but they have a lot to learn from, and I think it just makes their bench just a lot stronger with this one. This is an interesting pick, but a good pick. Good for Rodley.
And let's head on over to Pitt, who acquired this pick from Hawaii before the draft. Uh, this is where I'm going to lean in and say that I think Forsett Little, or unless they mess up and accidentally write Forrest Little, I think one of the Littles will come off the board here.
Yeah, I can't blame you for thinking that because of the fact that even though that they do have their backcourt is now set. We know what the backcourt is. It would be nice to go ahead and get someone who is a quality guard to be their sixth for coming off the bench.
I will say, hopefully, I can have some of my luck from last round, but I do agree. I do agree that all arrows are really pointing to Forest Little. Or even getting Forsett Little would be interesting, but I think that this is going to be one of the top 24 that does get picked up this pick.
Speaking of, the pick was already in. No surprise there. I think when they made this trade, they had a name in mind if they were still on the board. So let's go down and see what the deputy commissioner has to say.
For the 29th pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Pittsburgh Keystones have selected Joshua Day, a dingo guard from Appalachian Mammal College. Dakota Bikers, you are now on the clock.
All right.
Well, they went with one of the top 24s that was left, not the one I was predicting, but
Hey, you know what? It's okay because I could be right on the fact that all the top 24 will be get picked before pick they won't make it past 30. So hopefully Dakota makes that promise. We might see Forsett right here. But in all seriousness, though, it is a pretty it makes a lot of sense trying to go for there, being able to get that guard that can really, be a bit of a spark plug for the Pittsburgh Steelers offensively when it's time for when it's time for the starting guards to really take some rest.
I will say going for a more true guard is an interesting pick, but I think they just saw something in this player, and I definitely feel like they'll be a good fit. That is an interesting piece that they added to their puzzle.
that it is. And again, a top 24 candidate possibly available to make get some significant minutes. The talent was predicted to be there, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit more than we would of other top 24s. But let's jump over to Dakota, who traded up for this pick They've had a flurry of signings after the first round completed yesterday. So
Mhm.
what do they do here with their selection?
Well, considering all the players that did end up signing over to Dakota, I think it's safe to say that their starting five is essentially set um, for this upcoming year. So I think the big thing is just looking for any players that can really give them a solid core when it comes to the bench. Because that's the thing with Dakota; they've always been a very top heavy team. But one of the things that have kind of held them back a little bit has been the fact that they're when the starters rest, they haven't been able to try and, match that same energy coming off the bench. So I think that is going to be one of the things they're going to be looking into.
I don't feel like they're gonna go for a guard. And I know that doesn't look good for a little at this very moment. I still think that he'll get picked up, but I don't know if that's where they're going to go for. This might be, well, one prospect that I have been looking at is definitely Maverick Taylor, who definitely made some high wins in the FCAA tournament. But if they don't go guard here, this might be where Taylor gets picked up, or even where maybe Myers gets picked up. Would be interesting.
Well, the pick is in. Let's cut down to the stage.
For the 30th pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Dakota Bikers have selected Sarah Gruda, a roe deer big fur from the Paris Saint-Chien FB in the EFBL. Biloxi Voodoo, you are now on the clock.
No, I was so close.
I'm
Oh,
sorry,
They made
Marcus.
this to spite me.
You've lost your dessert tonight.
oh no.
I felt like they did that just to spite me.
Well, I think Wendy made a good point that going for guard didn't make a lot of sense looking at the team they had. I mean, I could see maybe grabbing one more for some bench depth, but well, are you trading up for that kind of situation? As we saw the run on centers went off the board very quick here, and they
Yes, it
grabbed
did.
one of the last few centers available.
Yeah, for sure, and that's just gonna be one of those things where, when it comes to the basis of need and making sure that you do have a solid rotation for all positions, it does make a lot of sense that they decided to go for a big here.
Yeah, so we
Yeah,
can.
just oh, I'm
No,
very
you go
sorry.
on. I want to hear what you have to say.
um yeah, I will say that I didn't specifically say who they would might pick, but I did not feel like they were going to try to add a guard to already their kind of guard and like small forward heavy roster. I think that this is a definitely a good match for someone who can definitely be a good B team when games get really tough.
Yeah, I would agree. So agree in that sense. I want to talk about the BLV though, a team that had 2 first-round picks, and we saw them pick up Corey Bain with their 23rd pick, and with their 7th pick, Holly-Ann Cotton. So they've gotten a big and a guard. Do we see Forsett coming off the board here?
I mean, if they want to finish the trifecta, get one in each area, they could. But yeah, I do think that it's a pretty good possibility because I know that looking at their roster right now, they do have a pretty solidified bench for the most part, but so I can't say that there really is a specific need necessarily when it comes to the backup wise. It's more so the starters that's kind of been the main concern for the swashbucklers.
I
You
kind
mean
of don't want to give him
the
the voodoo.
swashbucklers? We're not on the swashbucklers. We're on the voodoo.
Oh, snap! My bad. I'm all over the place.
Very
But
fine. It's been a wild
it's
draft.
look, my notes are everywhere at this point. Like you try to organize everything and try to make sure everything is mixed up and things of that nature.
The swashbucklers are next on the clock, Marcus. You're one
They
pick
are next
ahead.
on them. I am. But in in any case,
Well, I was gonna say the pick is in, so let's cut down to the stage.
For the 31st pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Biloxi Voodoo have selected Forset Little, an Illy Pika swing fur from Templeton University. Oregon Swashbucklers, you are now on the clock.
There you go, Marcus. No top
yes.
24 will go undrafted this year.
Yep. I mean,
Just
it's
off
not
by
much of a
one.
surprise.
I mean, honestly, the team getting 3 top 24 candidates with their 3 draft picks is not bad in terms of trying to
Oh no.
expand that talent pool in their bench and maybe find some starters long term.
I mean, yeah, for sure. And not to mention the fact that like this could possibly, if all of them develop very well, they could potentially be in the playoffs within the next couple of years. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case.
And Wendy, your thoughts as we switch on over to Oregon? Them losing Astrid in free agency. Do you imagine they're going to go? You were bringing up Maverick earlier. Do you think they might draft Maverick or another forward here, looking to replace some of that talent they've lost?
I do feel like it's possible. Just looking through the team, seeing some missing pieces that they could add from this draft. It's very important to build from the draft. Make sure that no matter what kind of player you have, starter or a bench, that they can fill that role. I kind of feel like Taylor might be picked up around this area, or they might go for another forward, which I definitely understand too.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few still on the board that I could see picked up here. I mean, even if one of the guards have stood out to them as maybe someone to learn behind Marcus Knight, who hasn't agreed to any kind of contract extension with the Swashbucklers, but I would be shocked if he goes anywhere other than Oregon at this point in his career. Trying to look at who's currently signed recently. If we had any news come across the wire, I don't see any. I'm looking to see who's signed with Oregon potentially. I don't think anyone. Nope. Arex Gonas Katu is one player that did just sign, so that's one guard. At the very least, they've acquired.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's another thing that's going to be also something to keep note of is just all of the players that have since the first round has concluded, players are now able to make their decisions, and there was a plethora that made their selections last night, and it's just going to be interesting in how that changes the trajectory for a lot of these teams. Certainly, we're going to be talking about for the next upcoming pick.
No doubt. I mean, I would imagine they're going to try and bring back Lucy Joe Heidkamp and Marcus Knight. So there's no necessarily like huge issue in terms of if they get both of those back. It's still pretty much the core team they've had. Just kind of trying to acquire that long-term talent and filling out that roster just a little bit with the
Mhm.
draft is helpful.
Yeah, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
I'm trying to look and see other options. Obviously Lisa Dunphy retiring. Unfortunate in the sense that
That's
they've
true.
lost one of their players, and the pick is in as the buzzer was just sounding. They got it in just in time.
For the 32nd pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Oregon Swashbucklers have selected True Bontrager, a European-bred squirrel swing fur from Maine Interspecies College. Tennessee Moonshiners, you are now on the clock.
Okay, they did go with a swing fur, which I guess if they're trying to fill out their bench doesn't shock me too much here.
Yep, and with that being the final on the cusp player, as well, coming off at number 32. So very interesting of how this goes up again. Essentially the best player available, but now everything's kind of free reign at this point. So there really isn't necessarily a ranking to the rest of the players. So it's all based off of how well that a lot of these teams have seen from their tape as well as at the combine, as well as possibly what they've done throughout their careers, whether it's in college or out overseas.
No doubt. And as Tennessee is on the clock now, this pick has been passed around quite a bit. Wendy, anyone on the board jump out to you as maybe a target for Tennessee here after they've lost both of their bigs in Luther and uh, River leaving in free agency?
Yeah, that was an interesting blow that they will definitely want to try to find some sort of replacement or at least something to build on their depth from the Big First side. Going for pure center would be interesting, but I think would be definitely a safe move. Just kind of seeing where their team is going. Um, this might be more for a forward though. This time I think this might be where just kind of going through the scouting reports, maybe where Meyer or maybe where Lawrence might come in. But getting a true center, maybe with the Dabrowski, would be interesting, and I think would pivot them in a certain direction.
Yes, and I have received word that Roy Bivens will be returning uh, to the team. So that
Oh,
is at
wow.
least a pure forward they're picking up. Uh, so that is at least one of their concerns resolved. Maybe that affects their pick here, possibly. Like you said, maybe they go more towards the center because of that.
Yeah, I certainly can see that. I think that's probably the best available because now that they have lost not one but both, I'm pretty sure that like it's a panic room right now for the Moonshiners, and they just got to get something for some sort of depth. But I'm sure that they'll also try and answer this in free agency as well. Because even though they did lost both of their bigs, there's still quite a few bigs out there that can do more than enough to be able to try and fill things in. But right now, that is going to be certainly something that they're going to have to look into when it comes to the depth situation.
Well, speaking of, the pick is in. Let's go and see what field staff has to say.
For the 33rd pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Tennessee Moonshiners have selected Marine Fotho, a Burmese right guard from Marines de Marseille in the EFBL. Baltimore Spirits, you are now on the clock.
Well, they did the opposite of going with a big. They went with as small of a small as they could at
Mhm.
5'5". But,
Yeah.
we saw her in the Olympics, and maybe, how she did there impacted Tennessee's plans here, looking for some backup for Jean Ferdinand. Maybe he factored in even if they, playing together.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly, but now it's just like looking into the Moonshiners are really gonna just try and solve all of their big problems in free agency. And I wouldn't be surprised if they have like um a plethora of picks. Well, not picks, but a plethora of offers getting over to whatever big that they can put their eyes on just to have something there for them.
Well, they will have a 38th pick, so we will see them again a few picks if there's someone left that they might go after.
That's the problem.
True.
So with Baltimore now on the clock, any thoughts, Wendy, about where they might be going with this?
A lot to build from, especially just looking at who is stuck with their roster right now and who they might be thinking about adding.
Well, they did draft Frederick Alexander with the pick at 16, so I was going to say a guard maybe, but they've kind of addressed that.
That is true. I feel like maybe going for another guard might also just kind of help with their bench as well. But I don't know if that's actually what they want to go for. This might be where the next little twin might go. I think that's where I'm gonna put my chips in for this one.
I could definitely see the acquisition of the other little going to Baltimore, obviously, as more of a guard forward, able to play a little bit of both positions and back up Sophia Kelly and Ramsey Carter. Or Yasina, if Yasina is promoted to the starting role. That's still in question, I think, depending on how it works out with Frederick Alexander.
Yeah, I don't know. This might be the final big that gets picked up here, in my opinion, mainly because of the fact that Baltimore, you know, doesn't really have a big signed outside of Tia, obviously. So it really kind of comes to show of like they do need to address their big fur depth at this moment because they do have a lot of slots available, and you know having a young big fur come in is not something that is going to be frowned upon by any means, and it certainly I think would be the case here when it comes to Baltimore.
I could definitely see that, and it sounds like the pick is in. Let's cut down to the stage and hear the announcement.
For the 34th pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Baltimore Spirits have selected Forrest Little, an Illa Pika swing fur from Templeton University. Alaska Arctics, you are now on the clock.
Well, Wendy, you were 100% correct. Congratulations. You have won Marcus's dessert.
Oh.
Wow. Okay. So you're just giving it away now?
You
Is
lost
that
it.
what I'm hearing?
You gambled on all the top 24 being gone by
I
pick
did
30.
not.
You were
But I
wrong.
wasn't gambling anything. I was just saying that I think that was the case. I didn't say I'm going to bet dinner on it or whatever.
It was dessert.
You're just putting words in my mouth.
Well, Wendy, congratulations. Here's a coupon to the
Oh, well, screw you.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Hey, we got to have some actual stakes here.
Oh
We're
my
in Vegas.
gosh.
We can actually gamble. But
Dang.
I agree with the Forest, not Forset. I'm going to completely mess those up. God help us if we ever cast a game and they're playing each other.
Oh geez, that's not gonna be fun.
Oh, man. So again, a good bench depth building here, but let's kind of jump over to Alaska unless either of you have any thoughts on this pick.
I think I'm gonna go ahead and go into the next team in Alaska.
Well, of course, Marcus. I'm sure you have plenty to say about Alaska.
I have so much to say, but I can't really say it on air. You know what I mean?
Oh,
In any case, um, considering the fact that in the first round in Alaska, they did decide to go ahead and get into. Sorry if I butcher this, but Syrian with the 20th pick. So, what do you think they're going to aim for here?
Well, again, another team that's had a lot of good signings. They brought back Devin Dukes. They brought back Ravishu Qatar. They brought back Esmeralda Patterson. They've got Tex Adriano back. You know, they got their starting lineup back. So at this point, they're just going for depth. And I don't think there's any bad pick here, honestly.
No,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that like at this point with the fact that they were already super close to making it into the finals, it's not much that you would expect for them to change too much. I would say. So I think that like the big thing is to make sure that their depth is still as solidified as possible. So it just depends on what they really want to aim for. With the fact that um, Vegas did have a pretty strong defensive front court. Do you think that they'll try and see if they can counter that a little bit offensively, trying to go more of a perimeter game to spread things out a little bit more? Or do you think they want to be like, you know what, we'll try and beat you at what you're best at and just like dive into well, I can't really say, but there is still one more big left, and just getting the only center available now in Jedrick.
I mean, I think that's actually where they're going to go. Looking at the roster, they have no one besides Devin Dukes locked in that can play center.
Yeah.
Very true. Getting a pure center would definitely help this team. Going guard would be very interesting. I don't know. I feel like that might lean them more onto one side. If Dabrowski doesn't go, I weirdly feel like they might go maybe even to a Palumbo, Chris Palumbo. But I feel like it would be a much better choice to try to get Dabrowski. But this team has a lot of options that they can go for of where they want this team to go in the long run.
Yeah, just looking at, I mean, I could even argue going with one of the forwards. Obviously, Tyler Conley locked in, Zhu Shejuan and Elsewhere Patterson locked in, but that's only 3 forwards locked in while they have 5 guards under contract. So
Oh.
really not able to get. You need at least a little bit more depth in that regard. As
Yeah,
we're just
I can
waiting on,
agree with that.
as we're just waiting
Yeah.
on the pick to come in.
Yeah, I mean,
Again,
I guess like looking into Alaska, they do still have plenty of cap space available, even with all the signings that they just made with 22. So, do you think that there's some options out there in free agency that they could possibly pick up to help fill up the roster a little bit more?
oh, no doubt. I mean, they have plenty of cap left. Obviously, 2 of the rosters. They have 4 spots to fill with 22 million. I'm sure they can find uh, quite a good number of furs out there that they can lock in. I think they're waiting to lock in, their main starting rotation and get
Hmm.
those guys in before they went out and made any other further offers. And
Yeah.
I think there is some word out there that they are looking to bring in Terry O'Toole as I think their big signing that's kind of in the waiting and holding period. Terry's got a few offers out from my contacts, so a couple options where he might land. The world's waiting for him to decide.
Yeah.
Any surprise while we wait? Any surprises in free agency thus far that you want to highlight?
Whew. I mean, I would honestly have to say, like, just going back into Tennessee, not really hearing any offers for them, pretty much biting them in the butt big time, not being able to, instead of just having to choose between one or the other, they ended up not getting either. So the complacency from Tennessee, this free agency is might well bite them in the butt this year if they're not able to try and find um players that can fill those massive, massive holes in the front court.
I will say I did get contact that they had offered Luther actually even more money than what he accepted to go to Tallahassee.
Mm.
I think there might have been some. Obviously, the fact that Luther and River did not go to the same team, perhaps Luther was looking for joining a team that was a little bit closer to winning that championship last year as Tallahassee was. Maybe after finding out that Aurora was returning, tipped it in the scales to their favor that, hey, I can go to a team that is a lot closer to winning that championship than where I'm currently at in Tennessee.
Yeah, I certainly can see that. I mean, with the combination of Aurora coming in as well as Kierkegaard, you can certainly believe that they have built a roster that could potentially be a team that will be calling in the finals at some this if not this year, definitely more sooner rather than later.
Yeah, no
Oh,
doubt.
oh,
Sorry, go ahead. There's the pick's not in yet.
oh no, my bad there. I do feel like with Tennessee, they're definitely trying to build in the draft with seems like 3 picks because they have another one coming up at 38. So that might be their all-in goal and just kind of take who they can after that from free agency. But it is tricky, but it is an interesting playing card to just kind of really hone in on the draftees that you pick up and having that be your core team.
Yeah, but that is a big risk as well looking into it because like trying to get a lot of young exciting players can be very interesting for a team and as well bring like a new life to the fan base. But at the same time, being able to get some players who have that experience, we know how well that they've played it. Certainly for what they had last year in Kindergarten River, not River, sorry, excuse me. But and with that in mind, having to lose both of those, that can be very gut wrenching, and that's going to be hard to try and replace as a young player coming in.
Well, speaking of, the pick is in.
For the 35th pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Alaska Arctics have selected Liv Meyer, a lemon shark forward from Baltimore Bay. Oregon Swashbucklers, you are now on the clock.
Well, the forward finally off the board. You've been bringing up Meyer as one of the options, possibly for one of the teams looking to build some depth, and I agree with the selection here, trying to address uh, that kind of lack of forward depth they have right now, even though a little undersized at 6'4".
No, very, very true. But just kind of looking at this player and just looking at how they were in Baltimore Bay, I think that they are a good pickup. They are a good addition to anyone's B team, to anyone's bench. And that could definitely lead them more forward into their career. I think this is a good pickup.
No doubt there. And we're diving in now to Oregon, back on the clock. Picked up True at 32. Who do they pick up here 4 picks later that, is still on the board? Was there someone that they're happy to see still there, maybe?
Judging by their last few picks, this might be where another guard gets picked up.
I mean, they did pick a center, and then they picked the on the cusp forward guard. So I would lean your way and agree that guard going off the board wouldn't be surprising. We haven't seen one besides the top 24 and Marine being the first non-top 24 guard, true guard taken off the board. I could see a forward, Maverick Taylor, like you said, Julian Perez de la Torre, uh, Elena Schwanwise, Eugene Lawrence. Any of those I think would be a solid pickup for Oregon as well.
I mean, I think it really depends on what their philosophy is overall, right? I mean, they have been fairly offensive heavy with Marcus Knight on the fray, but they haven't really been able to find anyone to be that true number two, really, for Marcus. And it's just going to be interesting on what they want to um uh dive into for this year. And I can definitely see them going guard here 100%, but do they feel like they need to have some kind of switch up to possibly be more defense heavy?
Well, the pick is in. Let's jump down and see what Deputy Commissioner has to say.
For the 36th pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Oregon Swashbucklers have selected Maverick Taylor, an American alligator forward from North Star University. The Edmonton Excavators, you are now on the clock.
Well, they did go forward, and we'll see the Swashbucklers one more time as they still have the 41st overall picks as well. So maybe they'll get a guard then.
Maybe.
So, Wendy, your thoughts on the Excavators, what they might do here. In the first round, we saw them pick up uh, Ayaka Miyuki, the pure forward at 13th pick overall. How do they complement their roster here?
The one thing, looking at their roster, I feel like maybe going for more of a pure guard might be their best option. I know I brought up the name Chris Palumbo. I know that we also talked about maybe Marnie Dillinger. I feel like maybe going for a pure guard might be the best option.
I could see that. I mean, we've seen them go guard a couple years in a row, and I think they're still trying to really find that superstar, and it just getting some backup would be worth it. I think in some ways, just to have uh, next for up, quote unquote. Obviously, Lopez has been quite good this past year, and they've re-signed Aria Ralston to a 3-year contract. So um, maybe not as desperate need a guard, considering they heard back regarding her free agency decision before the draft. Marcus, any thoughts on your end? What the Excavators might do here?
I kind of agree with you on this one, Ryan. Mainly because the fact that there have been rumors of them really kind of looking into bringing back a couple of guards that have done very well, and I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to say, you know what, it might be best to go big because while their front court is certainly set, there are losing quite a lot of bigs in free agency. Obviously with both Scooney and Zach Tate both coming off their 1-year deals, I don't think they're going to be coming back. Might be like a one and done type of situation, and as well, we haven't really heard a lot of words here for Darian Baptiste either. So there really isn't any big necessarily that can kind of help fill those slots for both Xavier and Nicolay. So I would probably have to say going that final big to finally be off of the board here at 37.
Well, the pick is in. Let's jump on down.
For the 37th pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Edmonton Excavators have selected Jedrick Dabrowski, a great crested newt center from Saventu Vilnius in the EFBL. Tennessee Moonshiners, you are now on the clock.
Well, the big is in, and I'm sure, Wendy, you are looking to get out of here and head down and continue hearing from the fans and getting the inside scoop early. If you want to have any final words before you head on out.
Well, first I will say very good job on the pick. I will just slide this coupon of dessert.
No.
I
thank
feel
you.
like
I
you
thank
very
you.
much deserve it.
Ah.
I appreciate it, Wendy.
Well, thank you all. Thank you all so much for having me. I think this has been a great draft, a great fun time. And yeah, I look forward to hopefully working with the FBA a lot more. And that's the end of my report. And I'll see you on the court. Take care, y'all.
You the same,
Yeah.
Wendy. And joining us to help with the rest of the draft, we have returning once again, Merrick Collins. How you doing, Merrick?
You guys miss me? 'Cause I sure miss being up here.
Oh yeah, it's great to have you back. Any thoughts
I'm
on
glad to be back. This is a lot of fun.
I was gonna say, any thoughts, America, on the craziness? We were a little flabbergasted with the picks, the trades announced at the beginning of the draft. We haven't had a lot of time to really digest everything yet. How about you?
Awesomeness, huh? Oh man, I'm sorry. I gotta ask. Did Hawaii have some dirt on Pittsburgh? 'Cause that's a little bit what it's sounding like. With
I don't know, and
Looking-
I will admit, I think Pittsburgh, Nur is a known quantity. You know what you're getting from them, so I can understand the desire to pull someone in like that. But you might be missing on a grand slam by trading away Martin like that.
yeah, that's they're taking they're taking a pocket pair when you could get a full.
Yeah, Merrick, you're
Just
kind of cutting it. Your
pieced
mic's
up a
cutting in
high
and out
card.
a
You
little
don't
bit.
know.
I think you have to disconnect your mic and plug it back in. I think you're having some technical issues. You keep cutting in and out.
All right, here we go.
Okay, I heard you pretty clear that
Yeah,
time.
remind me to have some words with the tech guy after this.
Oh, goodness. Everybody has beef with the tech dude. I wonder why.
Well, with Tennessee on the clock, any thoughts on where they might go here?
I mean, well, they definitely can't go big anymore considering
Hmm.
there are none left.
I mean, they could go power forward. There's a couple on the board.
Yeah.
That's but do they need a power forward really? I mean, they kind of do with their departures, I'll argue,
Yes.
but they do have a couple options. Like they brought in Dixon on a trade. Hodgson is bebopping around as well.
Yeah, like I said, they have a few options they could kind of roll with, but they just picked up a guard with their last pick. I'm kind of curious to see where they're going to go, but the pick is in. Let's cut down to see what the deputy commissioner has to say.
For the 38th pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Tennessee Moonshiners have selected Ashley Nadeau, a Woodland Jumping Mouse guard from Winchester University. San Jose Thrust, you are now on the clock.
They're going small ball, that's for sure, with another guard being picked here.
Yeah. I mean, it's nothing really to scoff at because as we alluded to, their starting backcourt is basically set, and with some of the situations that are going on right now, they will need to be able to see if they can try and fit a few players in. I wouldn't be too surprised if they decide to go ahead and slide Roy Bivens up as well to kind of fill in the void. So it's certainly going to be a lot of conversation going into it, since it seems like they're very guard focused so far in this particular draft.
Any thoughts, Merrick?
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, we are getting a little bit to the point of the draft, especially with guards, where it's like they start to all look a bit the same. So you're starting to look for those little things that you like and don't like. There's probably something in Nadeo that they liked. I personally know there's a lot I liked about her watching her tape.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, not shocked she got picked up here, or shocked she got picked by this point. More shocked that Tennessee has gone back-to-back guards in the second round, considering they have their point guard and shooting guard theoretically locked up. I mean, I guess we could see Selby sliding over to small forward, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be why they're trying to get a few more guards with that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, if they do end up going for that small ball strategy, we've seen it be successful in the past, but it kind of is more of a wait and see because there's still a lot of very big players in the FBA that need to be accounted for, and they could get beat up pretty easily if they dive too far into that kind of style.
Well, I think the pick is in. Let's jump on down to the court. Or stage, not court.
For the 39th pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the San Jose Thrust have selected Julian Perez de la Torre, a Gorgonops forward from San Juan Mets. Arizona Demons, you are now on the clock.
Well, another big off the board. They're running out very quick down here.
Yeah, for sure. We might be seeing a little bit of a theme here as majority of the bigs are starting to start coming off the board one by one.
And Arizona Demons back on now. Let's see. I'm looking in round one. They had no picks. They traded away their pick to Baltimore. That's how they picked up Frederick Allerson. Looking at the team as a whole, the most recent contract signings, they've have had 3 players sign. Obviously, Chet and Zuri returning, as well as Caroline Radley coming in. or
Yeah,
I
they're
should say
switching.
staying, being re-signed. That's all three of them, basically keeping their three together.
Yeah, and right now there's it's just the conversation of whether or not they're able to like. There are some rumors about Arizona looking into Don Brock as well, and it seems like they're really trying to rely on more so the free agency to kind of fill up their depth a little bit, as well as trying to get some players to potentially start as well. But this might be I won't say throwaway because you don't really consider any of these like throwaway picks, but more so just trying to get like a player that they feel like can be a solid player to come in and an emergency case basis in case somebody like important in the rotation goes down and they feel like that they could be the next for up in this type of situation. So I think that might be what they're looking for here.
Any thoughts, Merrick, on what this Demons might be going with after all those sign-in trades they've done this season? I think we've lost Merrick. I'm not getting anything coming through right now.
I'm having a little bit more technical difficulties.
I heard something.
You coming through now?
A little bit.
Yeah,
hear me?
coming through now.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Again, these tech guys. Who?
No, they're trying
Never
to do the
mind.
best
Never
they
mind.
can. It could be some malfunctions here and there.
So what are your thoughts,
I know.
Merrick?
I understand. Just temper gets the. I mean, I don't think guards are high in their list. Seeing all the moves they made, so you're probably going to see them spring for one of the forwards that's left.
Could definitely see them going with one of the forwards. We're gonna swing down to the court though, as the pick has come in.
To the court again.
For the 40th pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Arizona Demons have selected Marcin Claypool Radley, a raccoon swing fur from Ruby Valley College. Oregon Swashbucklers, you are now on the clock.
Oh, they went with a swing for in the end. Not one of the forwards like we were predicting. Merrick, can you try talking?
Yeah. I'm here. Again, I don't know what's up with this mic. I apologize. But yeah,
Yeah, you're cutting in and out. I think you're gonna have
pick it
to.
all.
I think we might have to cut you out a bit here. It's unfortunate that it keeps cutting in and out.
It's okay. I still had fun. It's still a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been great to have you as always.
Thank
Yeah.
you for joining
Thanks
us.
for having me. Hopefully, I can be back with a better mic next time.
Yeah, no worries. Well, Marcus, we only got 8 picks left to go in this draft, as Oregon now on the clock.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're pretty much at the point where a lot of these is just more so looking at pretty much what they really need to fill in their depth in this scenario. And that's not really the question that we have a lot for the swashbucklers too much, since really the main thing is just trying to get something going on for their starting lineup, which you can't really answer here unless whoever they pick up ends up like blowing away expectations and just ends up owning everything and being a rookie of the year candidate by the end of this year. But you never know.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon's had a number of picks already here tonight, picking up Maverick Taylor, so I don't necessarily see them going with a forward here. They picked the swing for True earlier as well,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously night one the draft pick up Theodore, so they got their center at the very least. So I would
Yeah.
lean guard here, just based on where they've picked elsewhere.
Yeah, I think going guard makes the most sense for sure. I mean, I would probably see if they can lean more into like the swing for personally, maybe Damian Hinch, just to continue also building up the depth in the small forward position as well, since they did lose Astrid officially now, and it's just going to be one of those situations where they will need to be able to see if they can run that slot by committee if needed, or if um or if they do find somebody in free agency, because they do have a lot of um money available in free agency to kind of see if they can purchase one for a pretty penny. But we'll have to see how that goes, because they also have to worry about Marcus Knight as well, since I do think they are planning on trying to bring him back also.
Yep. And speaking of, the pick is in. Let's cut down to the stage.
For the 41st pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Oregon Swashbucklers have selected Jordan Morton, a ringtail guard from Fur Bay State. Dakota Bikers, you are now on the clock.
Well, they almost completed their whole set. They have just missing a shooting guard, it seems like, as they've collected
Yeah.
4 different positions.
Yeah. Well, I don't like unless they decided to go ahead and trade back into the draft with whatever. I
Oh
doubt that we're
Lord,
gonna
no,
be seeing
please.
that. They find a way to like trade back in with Huntsville very last second to fulfill it.
I mean, they could, and just but by that point, who knows how many people are really left on the clock? But
Yeah.
doesn't again, we talked about getting a guard just to have some depth, someone to learn behind. But let's switch on back to the Bikers, who, we saw pick a center earlier tonight. Now all the bigs are gone off the board. Any idea of where they might be leaning here?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing right now, since they picked up River, um, to really pretty much solidify um really their big depth in general. So I honestly think that they could easily go for a guard, maybe a little bit swing for, considering that JC Gold is out of free agency. We don't know if he'll be back as well. And also Troy Ronick hasn't been. Wait, is that right?
Troy Nook is still under
Oh no,
contract.
sorry. Yeah, he's still on the contract. My bad. But yeah, there's still a couple of things that I think that guard wise they can probably try and fill in to really be there, because they don't really um have anybody that you can that you could say is confident to come in as the backup uh guard behind Jonathan Lawyer and Matthew Silvius. And they do have Eric Kajani, which has worked pretty well for them, for sure. But I believe he's on his last year of his contract,
Two.
correct?
He has
Or
two
am I wrong?
years.
2 years? Okay. So with him being there for the next couple of years, just having someone else to be that partner coming off the bench to continue that spark could probably be good to have here.
Well, speaking of, the pick is in. Let's go down and see what Field Staff has to say.
For the 42nd pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Dakota Bikers have selected Chris Palumbo, a softshell turtle guard from Kirby Ditko University. Santa Ana Spectrums, you are now on the clock.
Well, Marcus, you were correct. They went with guard here. No real shocker, I think. As you said, they likely needed some more depth to help round it out.
Hmm. And honestly, Dakota's really just trying to aim to get back into the finals for a very long time. They've either have been able to be one of the top three teams out in the West on a consistent basis, but haven't been able to go ahead and go up to the finish line. They have been cut short a couple of times in the second round, especially recently.
Yeah, like I said, there some new blood coming in. They've made some big signings. We'll have to see how that has an impact once the season gets started. But let's cut over to SAS, a team that is also looking at bringing in some new blood. Obviously, uh, we've seen some drastic changes over their roster since their
Hmm.
finals run and championship.
Yep, a lot of moving pieces. They've tried doing a little bit of a retooling numerous of times, and they're back in the same situation, but they need to retool once again. And do you feel like that it can finally work out for them? Because there has to be a discussion of whether or not it might be good to go ahead and go for a full on reset. I'm sure
Well,
that's going to be in the discussion at some point.
well, I think right now their goal, their name has been in discussion for the Terry O'Toole. I don't want to call it sweepstakes lottery.
Hmm.
I'm gonna call the steak special. It's the new steak special. Now that Wendy has officially announced her retirement, um,
Yeah,
bringing in if they can bring in Terry O'Toole, they're still in the hunt. If they fail to bring in Terry O'Toole, I do agree that maybe a rebuild is in order. Kiara Hughes is locked in for a long time. Benjamin Aquino's on his last year of his deal. If he's the future of their guards, they're going to be looking to lock him in for a while.
yeah.
Obviously, they drafted Olivier last night, but we'll have to see how they perform in the roster, really.
Yeah, and I guess like looking into like what they could look into since they have quite a few guards already and they're looking into Terry O'Toole. I wouldn't be surprised they would bring him in to fill in the starting small forward position. That could certainly be what their goal is. But it won't be a bad idea to go for a player that could kind of fill in for emergency purposes or at least be a decent enough depth to give Terry the much needed rest because I'm sure that they're going to rely on him quite heavily if he does end up going to the spectrums. So we could see Elena, we could see Damien here, maybe even Lawrence.
Well, speaking of, the pick is in. Let's see what Santa Ana has selected.
For the 43rd pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Santa Ana Spectrums have selected Marnie Dillinger, a chipmunk guard from Winchester University. Alaska Arctics, you are now on the clock.
Well, they did go with a guard, which I agree in terms of depth. Obviously, there's some questions of if Aditya is going to be brought back, and if so,
Mm.
what kind of role he'll play on this team. So getting a guard to help kind of round out that guard depth is not a terrible idea. Again, these players that we're seeing picked right now, there's not a lot of expectations on them to be a day one, 20-minute contributor on the floor.
Yeah. Yep, it's really just more so just trying to see what can they do to fill up the roster and really become very quality depth players. Not necessarily you're not really expecting a sixth or seventh fur really in this area either. You're just trying to get players that can come in, be that small little spark, and make the um some s- make some pretty big contributions in the short amount of time that they're on the court.
Yeah, I mean, really, right now, what these again, there's always the gems, always the players that somehow end up being a star of the draft, being found this late. So it's not like we can sit here and just dismiss any of these players as, oh, we say roster filler, and that means they're going to produce nothing in their career. No, it's just the teams, what they're looking at when they're signing these players is, hey, we're not asking for you to come in day one and help carry this team significantly. Obviously, you have to contribute in some way. That's why we want you. But that's where the surprises come in, and the
Yeah.
gems are found.
Yeah, 'cause you can never know how well a player can develop when they enter a new environment because college is nothing like the pros. I think anyone can tell you that very easily, and it just really depends on not just like you know physicality and being able to show that talent, but also the mentality as well. Because there have been players who have been picked up very high that ended up being journeyfers at best or being out of the league entirely at worst. So after their rookie contract is up, so it really goes into the whole mentality of where each of these players are and seeing of where that they can outshine where they've been selected or even prove that they belonged where they were at that moment.
Yep. And the pick is in for Alaska. Let's see what they have selected here. at 44.
For the 44th pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Alaska Arctics have selected Anya Anderson, a stout guard from Baltimore Bay. Tallahassee Typhoons, you are now on the clock.
Going with guard, we've seen a bit of run of guard recently, actually,
Yeah,
now looking at it.
yeah, we have quite a lot of guards coming off right now, and it's not too much of a surprise here for sure. But now we get a chance to look at Tallahassee a little bit, and Tallahassee has certainly made quite a lot of noise um, last night, not just from a draft perspective, but in a free agency perspective, as they have been able to win a lot of battles in free agency.
No doubt. Obviously, getting back Aurora Hopkins is huge. Getting Luther Kierkegaard to join them to play alongside, I'm assuming. They're going to keep Smoot in as starter, maybe move her down to the power forward. It's a strong team that uh, was very close to beating Bangor, and with this new team, they might have a good shot at making it to the finals.
Yeah, 100%. So like with their starting lineup basically said, like they are in the best position to be like, all right, we can go anywhere we want to, depending on like what the philosophy is when it comes to their bench. And they do have quite the starting lineup. They can really be that is essentially set for them. And it's just gonna be curious as to what they think will be the best way to fill the slot here.
Well, and they're not going to keep us waiting long. Already coming to the stage with the pick.
For the 45th pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Tallahassee Typhoons have selected Damian Hinch, an otter swingfer from Ohio State Mammalian University. Montana Howlers, you are now on the clock.
Again, picking up a good depth player, grabbing a swing fur to kind of help cover that gap. Obviously, they're excited to have brought back Aurora Hopkins, and they obviously have Martin on the team to. Those two tandems are a significant scoring duo, and obviously the rookie Francis, with 1 year left, not a bad idea to grab some uh, depth behind him in case he ends up leaving in free agency to go ahead and start having a player familiar with the system to possibly take over should he leave after next year.
Yeah, for sure. And going over to Montana next up, they have thrown out some offers, especially trying to bring in a couple of players back into the fray, more specifically, um, Mads and I believe, uh,
I think they've tried to retain their
yeah,
uh, Rodney Blackburn.
yeah, Rodney Blackburn. That's what I was missing. But yeah, just trying to bring a couple of those guys back, and as well trying to get Leon across as well. I think that's what the rumors were telling me at this moment. But right now, I think that that's kind of like they may have to probably get a couple of contingency plans as well in case like none of neither one of them do come back. So again, it's probably going to be more leaning towards. Well, there's no swing, so never mind. There's only just the two forwards and two guards available. So where do you feel they feel like it's more stress to kind of cover at this point? You would probably say that the guard position more so, since there really isn't any forwards that need to be brought back necessarily for Montana.
Yeah, I think their big thing is the center position, which they didn't necessarily even address in the first round. They picked up a forward there. I think the going guard is the most likely outcome here. So between Terry, Jasker, I could see either one. And in fact, I think we're gonna find out as the pick is in. 3 more to go before the draft wraps up.
For the 46th pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Montana Howlers have selected Terry Irawan, an Asian water monitor guard from Fur Bay State. Biloxi Voodoo, you are now on the clock.
Well, a guard is where they went. Terry off the board now. The Asian Monitor heading to Montana.
Yep, and now looking into Biloxi and what they plan on doing. I don't believe that they actually offer anything from what I know of. I haven't heard anything about them, but I guess looking into what they have done in the draft so far, just making sure to look at all of my notes, make sure I'm not going crazy with the fact that they have been able to pick both Holly Ann and Forsett earlier in this draft. This is going to be and Corey Bain. So we're they'll be able to pick their fourth player here. Do you think that they're just going to go ahead and take away the final guard here, or do you think they just go ahead and split between the two and just go forward?
I would go forward honestly at this point, just because uh, I don't see them needing to pick up another guard. I think they're going to try and um, bring back Natalie. Obviously, she's been very successful with them as a starting point guard, so I think the goal will be to keep her around. And I don't know if there's too much competition in the battle for her. Perhaps they're still negotiating what kind of contract they should be giving her. But either way, I would be surprised if they picked up a guard, unless that's indicating that maybe they are thinking that they might be moving on and they need to get some more depth just in case.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, like at this point, like with this, we're getting close to the irrelevant quote unquote pick that everybody likes to like pick on. In this case, it's not like these players are expected to, you know, knock everybody out of the park at this point. So it comes into the fruition as to going for a forward would probably be the best case scenario for them, and they could go Ilana. I guess I'm just gonna like try and throw that in there. I guess is my guess.
Yeah, well, the pick is in. Let's go and see what they have selected here.
For the 47th pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Biloxi Voodoo have selected Ilana Schwanweiss, a Red Fox forward from Universität de Fusch Stuttgart. The Huntsville Mayors, you are now on the clock.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, when the options are running out, you have a higher chance of getting the pick right. Don't get too happy,
I've got a few
Marcus.
things right a few times here in this draft. I might have been wrong a little bit more than I'm used to, but I did get a few things right still.
Yeah. Well, Huntsville Mayors, they have the last pick in the draft. Who do they go with here, Marcus? You have a 50-50 shot.
A 50-50 shot. Well, looking at what they have done so far in the draft and in free agency, they are going to go ahead and bring in some big for depth in Michael Akezi. As he announced that he was going to be signing with the Mayors last night, so that you don't have to worry about that, even though that there are no bigs really available here. But then also looking at to what they have done in the draft too, they have picked up Kater Radal with the very last pick in the first round, and I don't know. It's it's certainly going to be very interesting of what they want to go with here. If I were to be a betting bear,
That dessert.
yeah, I'm not betting the dessert.
Darn.
Yeah. But if I were to really go for this, I think that like probably going for more so the forward position could make the most sense. I mean, they are missing quite a few players here and there. From but actually, they don't really have a lot of guard depth from what I'm looking at actually. So I'm gonna go ahead and say I'd say Jasker comes up here. I think Jasker ends up being the quote unquote irrelevant for. But I obviously in a joking manner, a lot of these picks are definitely going to be you were picked for a reason, and it's certainly just to go ahead and be that developing piece that could potentially be a huge key factor in a lot of these teams. And certainly Huntsville looking to aim to not only continue doing well, but also try to see if they can finally get to the final because it's been a very long time since they've last um, played for the chip.
Well, speaking of, the last pick is in. Let's cut down to the stage one final time.
For the 48th and final pick of the 2024 FBA Draft, the Huntsville Mayor's have selected Jasker LaGuardia, an Otter guard from Ohio State Mammalian University. Thank you, everyone, for coming this evening, and best of luck to all of our new rookies this year. If you weren't selected, don't worry, there is always a chance that one of the teams will pick you up after the draft.
Well, there we go. The final pick is in. Jasker was selected. You were right, Marcus. You tried to bet on the wrong square to begin with, but you talked yourself into the right answer.
Hey, sometimes you got to continue to analyze and look around and be like, you know what? Your gut feels here and your brain feels here. And you know what? The brain was right as per usual. But yes, that is going to conclude the draft here. 48 of these players are now going to be able to show what they got in this upcoming season. And we are very excited to get things going.
That we are, and I look forward to seeing how the season plays out. We have free agency still to wrap up, but it's a long season ahead of us, and it's going to be a lot of interesting storylines as we get the season underway. Any final words, Marcus, before we head on out for the night?
Well, all I gotta say is I am still very, very excited to see how this goes up, especially as we get back up into the booth and calling these games as the season goes on. And I am very intrigued to see what a lot of how free agency concludes. We've already seen some wild things happen these past couple of days, and I'm just interested to see what's going to happen next.
Yep, I've been Ryan Eastman. That's been Marcus Baylor. And have a good night, everyone. We'll see you for opening game Halloween.
See you later.